much as I love America,
What would
but
bring an
it's
end?
like
What would bring an end? What would bring an end?
basically like God's kingdom. There would not be any more division. We're all one people, right? His children all together. So like all the divisions, the different
What's
colored
stopping God's
flags.
kingdom?
There's nothing stopping it. It's going to continually manifest.
But we're not living
Um,
that right now, right? So
no, correct,
we're
correct.
divided.
We're
So what's
yes,
dividing us? What's dividing us?
many things. Obviously, many things. So much.
All of the same level, or is there a hierarchy in the things that are dividing us?
Is I mean, it's good versus evil, but within that, yeah, is there like a hierarchy of the powers that ain't? Absolutely. Like who, do we call it the top or whatever that, we can see the stuff from like the Vatican and just the whole way our, even any of y'all that have followed that, like the straw man thing, like supposedly how our birth certificates and all that stuff, it's all currency. Oh, yeah, brother. Exactly. Done with currency. Yep.
What's wrong
That's
with
that.
currency?
No, that's one of the biggest ones. Actually, that's something, and that's what I was mentioning the Telegram thing. And check out Bob's channel. But some of the stuff that he's been sharing is basically all this stuff. That's like what Jesus said: render, to Caesar's what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. And so basically everything, all this money and contracts and all that stuff, those are all sins against God. So,
Okay, when I get a chance, I'm going to answer your question. Okay.
yep.
And we'll go to that in one sec. I would say, yeah, we're never going to have peace on earth until, in my opinion, until Jesus comes and reigns. Because it's, we're all flawed human beings, and it's just no one loves each other like we're supposed to love each other, and you're going to have evil people stepping on each other, and that's just the way it is. But we're all given the path before us. I think we all have, for whatever reason, 9/11 truth advocacy resonates with us, and we're laying that that path is open before us, and we're all walking it. Um, uh, I don't know where it's going to lead, but I'm just going to continue to go in faith. And I wanted to say something else, and I can't think of it right now. But Miles, did you want to cue on that, or could I go to Mark real quick to follow up with Will?
Yeah, well, I'll stick to the
Okay.
Will's question right now, and I would say I've got a framed copy of the Beatitudes from the Sermon on the Mount,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." And I just off the top of my head pick Richard Gage as an exemplar of the meek, and meek doesn't mean weak, which is often people
Yep.
misinterpret the word meek. It means quiet strength,
Yes.
a forceful presence uh, with power, which is used carefully and judiciously. And Richard's been out there on the front lines, basically, I'd say now for decades, going on decades. So keep the Beatitudes as a part of why we're doing what we're doing, whether you're religious or not. I don't think,
Mm-hmm.
as the song by Depeche Mode, have your personal Jesus, whichever way you want to frame Jesus, those words of his, be a peacemaker, you know. And finally, to conclude, before we turn it to Mark, I'd like to quote again my favorite YouTube channel dedicated to recreation vehicle inspection, Blue Ox. They always conclude with sometimes children saying this. Remember and do never forget, it's not about the destination, it's all about the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you, Gene.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I would say real quick that I think I've said with Sandra that our method is just to continue to onboard people. We're not ready to take up arms and march in on DC and say we want 9/11 justice now. We're just onboarding people, getting them familiar with the 9/11 truth. As Marty said, and I've repeated it many times, Marty Hopper in one of her video clips from the 20th anniversary, that our two biggest obstacles right now are mainstream media and basically winning over public opinion. And that's still a huge thing for us to do right now. And I think we as activists on the low level, the grunts, the people in the field, the boots on the ground, we're doing a good job doing what we're doing. And we just continue to do that.
Like Richard said, we're getting there.
We're getting there, yeah. Go ahead, Mark. Thank you, Miles.
Well, there is, okay. We have, basically, if you're a Christian and you read John 7:16 and 17, you understand that Jesus was completely held himself unresponsible for what he did, and he gave responsibility to the Father. And the Father, in all, if you think about it a bit, the Father is synonymous with truth. Okay, so the kingdom of heaven is a kingdom of truth. Can we agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no truth, it's not the kingdom of heaven. And if there's truth, there's a kingdom of heaven. And at one point, Christ says that if you see my works, right? If all those who work under God, I'm not paraphrasing here, will know that I too am working under God. So he's already noticing that people can follow truth, God, because God and truth are synonymous for our purposes. And yeah, can we stick with what? Okay, getting distracted here.
Sorry.
So you can look that up for yourself. But the idea is that there's a reign of truth in the universe, right? So our job is to plug into the truth. The truth is a system. It's a dynamic system. It's an infinite system. And the person who proved that is Kurt Gödel. So if using mathematics, he proved that essentially any axiomatic system, or you need axioms to have a truth, will always point to more truths that it can prove. So if you have a finite set of axioms, you always have more truths than, and this is the incompleteness theorem. So basically, he's pointing to the fact that knowledge is infinite, truth is infinite, and the interesting thing about truth is that no truth, no matter how mundane, can be denied by any other truth, no matter how transcendent. So basically, you're either in the realm of truth or you're not. But in our world right now, the systems that are affecting our ability to plug into truth, right? People think they're all the same, and they're not. Okay, the number one system that's undermining truth throughout the whole world right now is the money system. Mm-hmm. And we have proven mathematically, in terms of systems engineering, that this system is one system. The yen, all of these different systems. And the notions that most people have in the truth movement about money are absolutely wrong. Gold is no answer. None of these things are answers, right? The only thing that is an answer to money is truth. So all of the things that people believe that the solution to the money system is going on the gold standard and all that, it's nonsense. It's just buckling over again, looping back in the same kind of game between different forms of fiat and different ways of trying to sustain something that is false. The dynamics of the system we have now for money, based on the common notion that we all have about money, which is wrong. I've pointed it out before. I don't know if people have bothered to look at it, but you can prove it over and over again, and you need to know it, right? That notion guarantees that the money system, whether it be the gold or whatever, all these systems that have existed for millennia, right, are unstable systems. And by virtue of them being unstable systems, everything that comes into contact with it will be destabilized. So anyone who tries to incorporate imperatives of money will have their systems destabilized. and their social systems, and their persons destabilized, right? So that is the primary mover of everything that we decry. So what's happening in 9/11 is terrible. It was horrible, but we just have now recently one that's 7 times bigger and probably 10 times bigger, which is the murder and the genocide in Gaza. And this is going to go, it's going to get bigger and faster all over the place. And the only solution, the only thing that will stop it is by debunking this nonsense of money. Because we're all tied in and we're all buying into the system, whether we're doing it wittingly or not wittingly. Every time we use money within this conceptual quagmire, we are feeding the beast that produces 9/11, that produces war, that produces conflict, that is constantly creating division throughout at all levels of society. So I'm 100% for 9/11 truth because I'm for truth, but I'm also for incorporating all truths into one system, because we can't just think we're going to look at our little truth that seems to be important to us. All truth, we can't accept one truth and then not look at others. We have to look at the whole thing. And so I've sent and I suggested you do, and this is my contribution, right? If there's anything I can do for you guys for 9/11 here in Spain, I'll do it. Just let me know. But I'm really busy, and I've already informed the European Central Bank, and I've also informed the Bank of Spain with our communiqué in a formal registered fashion. So they have received it. So if you want to know what they've received and what these guys are thinking about right now, it's only a 2-pager. There's a 30-page annexes that support technically what we're saying. So if anybody doubts it, they can look into that. But you can pretty much get it in the first 2 pages. If you read that, that is, I think, the priority. Because the moment we take power out of money, that doesn't mean the money ceases to be useful to us. It can still be useful to us to, as a means to measure value, whatever. We talk about that. But the moment we take power out of money, the whole thing collapses, right? The WEF, all these people no longer have any means, and they are using money to get your energy to feed them, right? So if you don't solve the money problem, you're not going anywhere. And no matter what you think is going to happen in the 9/11 world, right, which is a big issue, but it's little compared to Gaza, for example, everything you think you're going to get there, it's never going to be satisfactory, because it's all going to be attenuated by money and power and people, and they'll give you, if they have to, they'll give you some truth, whatever, but you'll never get any satisfactory, and it doesn't matter. There'll be more 9/11s, and there'll be more wars, and there'll be more wanton killing and murderous behavior by humans. So one of the things that we need to do is to stop thinking about who's doing what and understand the system everybody is tied into, because most of the people at the top that I've spoken to high-level people about this issue of money, they don't know, because they haven't studied systems and they haven't studied control systems. There's about 0.001% of the population have studied control systems in a way that they can apply it to their lives. And those people, it's not that it's complicated stuff, it's just that nobody does it, right? So if you understand the principles that we're showing about the systems, you immediately realize that we're in a dynamic system that is unstable and will continue to destabilize no matter what we do as agents under that system. So the system, it's not a question of who's going to, sure, we're guilty. Some people are guilty, so to speak, but we're all liable. We're all liable, because the moment we have our false relationship with money, then we are promoting the beast.
Yeah.
And that's my point. So all my love to you guys for 2024. It's very late for me tonight. I really hold you close to my heart, because you're standing up for the truth. But there are a lot of truths out there, and there's a hierarchy.
Hang on, I gotta share a quote with you.
Sure.
So I'm on Treaty 7 territory, also known as Southern Alberta, Canada, and this is a plaque down at where the Bow River is confluence with the Elbow River, and words of Chief Crowfoot who lived from 1830 to 1890. He says, "Our land is more valuable than your money. It will last forever. It will not perish. as long as the sun shines and the water flows. It was put there by the Great Spirit, and we cannot sell it because it does not belong to us.
Great.
Unquote. So about money from 100 years ago.
When humanity, as they say, left the Garden of Eden, what they did is they said, we are going to take responsibility for our behavior. Whereas when we were in the Garden of Eden, God had all responsibility for everything. So, whatever happened, the Garden of Eden, it wasn't our fault. We just lived. And the people that I look for an example of that are in the Andaman Islands, in Sentinel, the island of Sentinel. They found people in the 1960s. They found people that had been living the way they lived then in the 60s for 50,000 years. And these are the happiest, most adjusted people you can ever find. And they had immediate abhorrent reaction. I mean, they just found that what we were abhorrent from their visceral response to what civilization had for them. So I'm not saying that civilization is, all wrong and all. I mean, there's probably a very nice path for civilization, but we haven't been on it, and we haven't been on it for a long time if we ever were on it. And this money thing has got us all by the balls. Mm-hmm. Sorry for the expression.
No.
Anyway, so I got to go, but
real quick, I wanted to ask. Yeah. Obviously, fractional reserve banking is a great evil for this planet. In the Bible, they had the year of Jubilee, which every 50 years it was a reset. Any debts were relieved by everybody. So there was this, nobody had this power over everybody else because it would just be a reset. My question for you was, and this may be wrong in my thoughts, but whether it's capitalist or communist, it's not so much the system, it's the people operating it in power. Because if you have a corruption of money in capitalism, where, for the corporations, it's the bottom line, it's going to eventually work against the people. And in communism, if you have corruption with the money, it's one person hoarding all the money and not giving it to the people. Any thoughts?
Okay, let me cut in. First of all, when you refer to the Jubilee, we have a completely different concept of money. The first concept of money that took ground was very subtle. The basic concept of money was a fungible asset. So salt, barley, like if you go to Hammurabi codes, which is, the earliest legal system that we have on record, they had talked about silver and barley acting as, as a medium of exchange, if you will. But the function of it was simply that if I have something that is fungible, then I have an advantage to something I don't have fungible. So if I have a house and I say I don't want such a big house and I want to trade it for something of equal value, finding something that's single thing that's equal to my house is like, nightmare. But if I trade it for this fungible thing that everybody wants, salt, barley, silver, then I get a quantity of that that's corresponding to the value of my house. But then I can now divide that quantity in proportional amounts so that I can buy a smaller house and have a lot of stuff left over to feed myself for in my old age or whatever. So that was the concept of money. And then as society developed, and probably at the time of Babylon, there was a sort of subtle conflation of this concept of divisible, fungible, right, like gold or whatever, and also the notion of measure. So those two concepts are demonstrated absolutely to be mutually exclusive. And that's how we've been operating for a long time. So that notion of money, whether it's left-wing governments, right-wing governments, capitalism, communism, that notion of money is wrong. And that notion of money, so if you want to say we want to measure value, we can do that. And we can do that in a way that's stable and that's valid in terms of a reference of value in the market. That can be done. Economists don't know how to do that because economists don't study science and they do not study reality. So they basically invent their own theories and then create their own frameworks to evaluate their own theories. So if you study Keynes, you're not studying Keynes in terms of some common economic framework. You're studying Keynes framework. And if you're saying Hayek, you're saying Hayek and Hayek's framework. So it's a nightmare. It goes nowhere. It's all promoted by propaganda. So economics is probably the greatest evil that has hit the world, because it dresses up absolute nonsense as if it were some kind of legitimate science, and it isn't. So we're going to look at the problems economists look in terms of a science that has a common standard framework, which is called systems dynamic theory. And at the very elementary level that we need to do that, anybody can get in on it, because it's not that complicated. You know, if you want to study stability in the simplest form, the notion of stability that economists use and central banks use, just is nonsensical. They invented to have sort of a kind of feely-weely idea of, well, relatively stable prices. But that's not a stable system, right? Because, you know, I can use an unstable system to force stable prices. But that system is going to eventually explode, which is what happens with economists. So we're going to look at it from what we propose is all stuff that you can check out, because it's not us saying it, it's the system science that's saying it. So when you talk about fiat or all these different propositions are doing, none of them are correct if they include this conflation of measure and tradable commodity. So if you just think about that a little bit, gee, you know, can I take my score in my football league and trade it around? Huh? No, you can't, because a score is a score. It's a measure. It's a measure of the number of times the ball went in the net. End of story. Ball doesn't go in the net, there's no score, right? And what actually creates the numbers is the actual action taken on the field. And that's what we want in economics. We want everybody to be able to get up in the morning and say, I'm going to do something for somebody else, and I want the value of that recorded in a standard, stable fashion. That's what I want, right? And we can do that, no problem. We got the math, we got the systems, we can do it, and it's infinitely better to anything we've ever done with money or gold.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, so that's the thing. Anyway, gotta go, guys. Love you all. Take care.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night. All right, we'll go back.